Hello and welcome to another episode, this being number 35. Episode 35, that's an exciting time for us here. We are setting up for Katunkwit Chronicles. This episode is entitled Scav's Carnival and the Origins of Humor. And I'm here today with a guest host in a new title role, none other than Sam Nowak. How are you, Sam?
I'm great. How are you?
Well, had some issues. Working on those physical issues. We talk about pickleball a lot here. And golf, and the combination of those particular movements has left me with some debilitating issues. So we are here enjoying today. It was a little cooler today, but yesterday?
Very nice.
Nice. It was a top 10
Absolutely.
This spring for sure.
Starting to warm up, birds chirping, hot sun, everything.
Yeah, how's Sam Nowak's father?
He is doing good. He's actually in the capital, D.C. right now for some work.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Hot spot.
Yeah, hot spot. He doesn't want to be there, but he has to.
Well, I'm sure he'd rather be home with all of us.
He'd rather be doing anything than going to D.C. right now.
Well, we were going to talk a little bit about current events, so I was curious what you know about what's happening there. Seems like there's a president that seems to be taking over the Constitution.
It does seem like a lot of, concerning things are happening.
Well, how are you feeling about it?
Not good.
Could you be
putting
more
putting it lightly?
Perhaps a little more detailed than not good. Yeah, I imagine there's discontent.
It's definitely
sleeplessness.
Yeah, and aside from all of the worrying stuff that's happening, it's really affected a lot of departments that also my dad kind of works with. So a lot of companies are getting rolled back. So
you're struggling with that.
Yeah, a lot of my dad's the funding he gets to give out to manufacturing companies is now up in the air, kind of. So.
And you're attending university too, right?
I am.
And then, so are your programs being cut within the university as a result of these cuts too?
So, as far as I've heard...
engineering, right?
Yes. As far as I've heard, nothing that's kind of been drastically impacted. However, everything funding-wise is kind of falling apart. A lot of people are losing federal money for... that.
That's when it begins to crumble, by
exactly. It hasn't quite hit the point yet, I think, where we're losing amenities, but...
Yeah, universities run on...
It's just got to catch up, yeah.
They run on money, you know that, right?
Doesn't everything?
Yeah, well, I mean, they are particularly not making money at a university, and nor should they, but it's going backwards, I imagine.
They need that money.
Yeah, so hiking, climbing, doing any of that?
I am doing a lot of climbing lately. I was actually very concerned, so for my summer job, where I work in the woods for the Appalachian Mountain Club.
That's a federal woods or something, right?
Exactly what my concern is how will the program be impacted? Is there going to be a large cut? But after reaching out to them, luckily, they kind of were able to secure enough funding from private donors and other organizations so that they're going to be running totally full operation this year, despite all the cuts that they've had.
Wow. Good.
Very fortunate. Yeah.
Well, people do like to romp around in the woods
Hard to
and,
argue.
commune with nature. But, are you going to be doing that with a oil a pipeline that runs through your mountain?
Yeah, well, hopefully not. Luckily, there's not much oil up in New Hampshire itself, but
Yeah, and other places are struggling, and the rights of Native people that are there are
yes,
being
yes, exactly.
diminished, just as
Yeah,
seemingly most Americans are feeling this crunch of downsizing government. Which, I mean, if there's legitimate places to cut, I think it needed to be done in a more judicious manner, right?
I absolutely agree. I feel like, yeah, it's like a shoot first, ask questions later attitude that is what we're dealing with. A lot of cut the
Yeah.
funding and give it back if they need it, but
Yes, and
it doesn't always work like that.
it's turning a lot of departments upside down all over the country. It's a very disruptive time to be, I imagine, as a young person, try to find your way, which we all are and were. It's a lifelong struggle. However, when you're young, it's important to have, stability around you.
Right. And when things change so drastically from year to year, or even, yeah,
Day to day.
yeah, exactly.
Well, let's talk about something fun. Is your brother still seeking comedic expression? Because I heard he was interested in comedy.
Yeah, he's still been going to open mics. I'm not sure if he's been actually performing or just kind of observing and soaking it all in.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's good.
I mean, he's a funny guy, so I'm.
I'm encouraging that. I can't wait to have him on the show. Sven is a funny dude, and we have job opportunities. There are some out there, I presume. There's a lot of new people in the workforce seeking employment, but are you seeking a job of any type at this moment?
So at this moment,
You have full employment this spring,
I
right?
do have full. So they need the help. I mean, not drastically, but I like to have that. As a. I can't be too. I got to have something to do. So.
Oh, I know.
And
Yeah, I mean, we all do, right?
And we, we got bills to pay and things like that. But no, beach is good.
How's that bomber of your car you have running?
Yeah, it's great. 270,000 miles, something like that. But, it gets me from point A to point B. And I recently got some work done on it, so it should last me through the season in New Hampshire, ideally.
Outstanding. So I thought today we'd talk about comedy and the origins of comedy and even just about some of our childhood experiences, which can be kind of fun. But can you remember some of those for us?
Well, that is a great question. So a lot of people have really strong, vivid memories from childhood. I am not one of those people, but I do have a lot of sparse memories of very entertaining things.
Well, give us a sparse memory of an entertaining thing, as you put it.
Well, I'll say we had a dog when I was younger who's a big, big lab.
Yeah, it used to beat me to death with its tail
No
every time.
kidding. The Billy
Nice.
Club.
I think Jack, right?
He was a good boy, and he also was a rascal.
Kids don't use that word very much anymore, rascal. What a cool word. I like
It
it.
is a good one. And he, we were kids. I was probably 8 years old.
Yeah,
and
that's what we're
so
going for.
I would bug him, like any kid would bug a big tolerant dog, but eventually he stops tolerating it, and would grab my sweatshirt and drag me across the yard by it. No, super gentle dog, but it's like, all right, it's time for you to stop
Yeah.
dunking water on me. And the thing he used to do to Sven all the time when he was little, like 2 years old little, was he would walk up to him, bump him, like just very gently bump him in the chest with his head.
Yeah.
Knock him so he like wobbles over and falls on his butt, pull his socks off and run away with them.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So the dog was doing the bumping.
The dog would knock over the toddler,
And just
pull the
take the
socks
socks.
off, and then, yeah.
See, these are comedic moments. You know that, right? So
Absolutely.
the reason I asked you to tell us a little story was we'll see if we can pull apart those comedic elements. And one of them would be the watching your brother fall down, right? So that there's the pratfall that's known as, which we'll talk about more later. But and then you brought the audience along with you with a description. You know, you probably could have added a few things, but that was good about the socks, right? So, you know, and you got to imagine those socks kind of stunk, right? There's probably
sure.
a little bit of 2-year-old probably
Baby.
steps in some massive thing. But you know what? I'm sure Jack didn't mind.
No, right? They eat poop.
Yeah. Oh, that's rough. See, that's funny. It's unsettling, but it's funny.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I may have told the audience this, but when I was a young man, we lived next to a saltwater estuary, which people if they've listened to us, they know about this. And the river was right near our house that, you know, eventually spilled out to the bay and then the bay to the ocean. So we're in a tributary up in the upper reaches. And in the winter, back then it was quite cold in the winter, and there was ice that would come into play, and then the ice would break up in the spring about 2 weeks ago, really, perhaps last week of February. And as kids, we would hop from one to the other and float around out there in the middle of the river. Not in the middle. Typically, we would do this closer to shore. But nothing funny about that, just dangerous. But how could we bring some humor to it? You know, we could add to the story that included someone falling in the water. There was a rescue. So far, it's just drama, right? How could we bring humor to that story? Perhaps we find something and then return it, but the person actually didn't want it. And so we go through all this work, then we come to the end, and then they tell us to buzz off. I mean, not that funny, but I was working it.
Very good comedic concept, though. It's interesting. So where does the line fall? When does that become a story about a dangerous event versus a funny story?
Yes, that's the trick as a comedian, is to bring them along and then sort of twist it on them at the end would be good. Always good for humor, to bring a little humor to a story. I don't know how to bring any humor to this, but as a young kid, I was always seeking to make money, somehow make some money, right? That was because we didn't have any. And I knew that there was things you could buy with money, like ice cream and stuff like that. When the ice cream man would come around it would happen to be a man, by the way, and he would come around the neighborhood, and I would wait for him, but I didn't have any money, right? So I was always trying to sell something. So I would go clamming at low tide with my bucket and my rake, and then I would return home, wash the clams, package them up, and walk around the neighborhood to each house and ask if they wanted to buy some clams. Well, my father got word of all this, and he was furious because I guess he was ashamed to some degree that it was entrepreneurial, which I think he supported, but I just don't think maybe he felt like it was a little dangerous, but that's sort of this era, not that era. It was a long time ago, and you could walk the streets.
Agreed.
You know, and nobody had to sit with their kid on the sidewalk with boxes of whatever they're selling there, the the
Yeah,
Gal
the
Scouts.
Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, the Gal Scouts there. They're selling those cookies pretty hot and heavy. The parents seem very, very intent upon selling them too. With those big signs and all that. My father, no way, you know. So, and my mother, she didn't have any particular opinion about it because she was home during the day at that time with me. So there was this, you know, penchant to always, you know, somehow garner some cash, right? But did you ever build any bunkers or tree forts in your yard? I think I remember a tree fort that was, it was sort of you repurposed the um, that beautiful playground that your parents bought for you.
Oh, that's right.
And then it had a lot of holes in it with nails and screws and odd looking pieces of wood.
It was definitely a tetanus trap for a little while. Well, it started out as I don't know, 15 feet, 10 feet high, like a swing set with an upper level and a slide down. And it was great. But as we got older and played in it more, we were like, I know, we can totally make modifications to this. We can do, like, let's make a little window here. This board's already broken. Smash. Oh, know what I didn't think about? Now there's 2 exposed nails there. But that's fine. Just don't just don't touch that part.
Yeah.
And eventually,
Tetanus trap.
yeah, 50% of it was nails sticking through, and yeah, but it was definitely fun, learning experience, how not to nail things together. And eventually we used to put a tarp over it, so that, you know, on a rainy day we could still hang out in our little fort.
Yeah, you want to give the everyday an opportunity to have a tetanus shot, right? So see, there's humor. So there was a day, like, this is like a really hot summer day. My sisters I had girlfriends over, you know, so I was always excluded, but they still had to take care of me. So they figured this time they said, well, instead of, you know, hanging out with my brother, let's turn him into a girl. So they actually put this Shirley Temple wig on me. They dressed me in a small dress. I had, you know, they put makeup on my cheeks, and I'm actually one of the gals that for that afternoon with them, you know, cross dressing me, and because they really wanted a sister, not a son. I mean a brother. So my father comes home, right, and he finds me on the neighbor's front lawn dressed as a little girl with a wig on, and boy, my sisters caught it for that one. He was probably, you know, overly concerned, given the circumstance.
Right.
However, there was a different era. That was the 60s, right? So, you know, you think of the 60s, you probably think of 1968 and protests.
Before that,
right? Yeah. So I'm in this dress, hanging out. There's still pictures hanging out somewhere in my mother's pictures that, you know, she gave to me when she passed away, and, well, she did it before. And they include this particular picture, so I meant to pick that out. We'll have to go get that and show you sometime.
that does sound quite amusing.
Now
that's humor.
That was funny, right? It was kind of fun. I mean, it wasn't overly funny. However, you know, just a nice little story about something that happened that.
Yeah, a little reversal of expectations.
So if we look at technology in childhood, do you remember when technology kind of flipped its ugly switch on you, and then you became an owner of a device that crippled you and you had to keep in your hand all the time?
It was definitely later in life for me. So even in middle school and high school, I really never was into. I was never a big social media guy.
Yeah.
So I never really fell into the trap of all the social media mental game stuff that you hear a lot about recently. there is definitely, I do feel like that there's an aspect of, let me see how, I don't know how to put this. I'm just trying to get my brain out. I feel like now.
Get your brain out.
Yeah. Now as opposed to then, I feel like there's more use of electronics by everyone in the world, including me, as opposed to regular hobbies. So even throughout high school, I kept my regular hobbies. It never got kind of taken over by social media or video games or stuff like that. And I still do play video games, but it just it never became kind of an overtaking part of my life, like I feel like it does for a lot of people.
Do you do fanciful ones or the ones, and I have a hard time even saying this, but the ones that are actually like you're pretending that you're a person in a war?
No, I'm more
Combat?
interested. Yeah, I'm not as interested in that. I'm more interested in like Mario Kart and Minecraft and that kind of thing. Just silly little party games.
Oh. And so you're kind of caught in between. You're a tweener,
I'm a tweener.
and this recent generation seemingly are like in a place where they have real anxiety over the whole topic.
Yeah, I wish, and this is something I wish I knew more about.
Let me clarify that. They have anxiety if it's not in their hand charged at 100%.
Right. And I do wish I understood a little bit more about that. I know there's plenty of research out there. That does happen to me on occasion, but only if there's a reason. So I know if I'm out, whatever, at X event in Providence, I know I could find a way home without my phone, but I don't want my phone to die so I can have the easy way home. And therefore, if it started to die, I might worry about it, even though knowing I don't need it. It is interesting. I do see a lot of people that are really tied to that in a way that's just over the moon to me.
Have you ever asked the person to use their phone to make a call?
Yeah, and they're like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there are no payphones anymore.
Nope. Yeah, and if someone walked up to me randomly on the street and asked me to borrow my phone, my first thought would be, is this person trying to steal my phone? And then, I would probably let them use it. But I do think it's interesting that everyone has phones now. Payphones don't exist, so you kind of have to have it if you want to be calling anyone.
True. And there's calling. There's also, as you suggested, Ubering or one of those other Lyft services, and that can be handy, I guess. I noticed that we had a lot of weird charges from Russia the last time we were in New York City and used one of those services.
Well, that's interesting.
Not so much. Little music. Little wave, and the loving bubbles. Those bubbles, they might be feeling good. Right now, that might feel good to be in a bubble bath. Okay, so today I wanted to discuss comedy again. And not at length, but I did read an article in the New Yorker magazine, August 29th, 2024. Article title was, "What's So Funny?" And I should have brought the name of the author of this article. But anyway, that's our credit there for doing that. And the way they discussed this in the article, one of the examples I thought was really interesting was comedians are seeking to hold a crowd laughing for 2 seconds for each joke. 2 seconds is adequate, more than adequate. 4 seconds is monumental. I didn't realize it was such a short time to trying to tickle somebody. Lenny Bruce, oh, sorry, we're going to comment?
No.
Lenny Bruce, who was a real avant-garde, edgy comedian in the 1960s, and had a 17-second laugh, and this was his line that led to this. If you've ever seen this bit before, I want you to tell me. Stop me if you've seen it. I'm going to piss on you. 17 seconds of laughter. Okay. So think about the time that was expressed in the 60s. Now, a comedian might be totally way off talking about body parts, and I don't think the word penis is a funny word.
Interesting.
I don't think the word jocularity is funny.
No.
But it's ironic that it's not.
But it sounds funny.
There was a show called MASH. You probably don't remember it, but there was a television show, and there was a character by the name of Father Mulcahy, and he was up for anything, but he was definitely like the straightest person in the group. And he said at one point, when something was funny, he said, "Jocularity, jocularity, jocularity." And I just thought, that's the least funny thing anybody could ever say. But now we're laughing about it because it's ironic, right?
It's so unfunny that it's funny.
And what is it about this line from Lenny Bruce that was funny? And I did find it to be funny. I'm going to piss on you. What sets it up, though, is the pauses. Because he's giving you the expectation that you may have seen this bit before. So you're in this headspace. And then, stop me if you've seen it, the long pause, and he says, "I'm going to piss on you." And he didn't piss on them.
That's good.
Which would have been funny.
Also would have been funny. But
I thought so it was preposterous, right? And the comedian is in a superior position to the audience in this situation. Most often in the past, in the Middle Ages, when they had jokers and court jesters, you would have probably had a good job back then as a court jester. Although I think they took they made them eunuchs.
Uh-oh.
So they wouldn't be messing with the
yeah, no thank you.
the queen. So, but anyway, let's go back to this. So that's a little funny right there about the eunuchs, right? All right, so
Only funny because it isn't me.
comedian in superior position to the audience. So he put himself in an authoritarian position. And he did that. He got their guard down because it might be something they might have seen. And the comedian is revealed as is beneath contempt in this situation. This comedian, because he's known to be outrageous, right? And then he flips the switch, and then it's just important to remember that it's not important. Comedy's not important, I don't think. I mean, we can live without comedy. I don't know if I could. What about you?
That's a great question. Without comedy or without jokes? Because
I think I could live without jokes, but without joy that comes from these kinds of preposterous
I don't
situations.
know about that. Humans are really social creatures. I feel like we get a lot of our joy from that. We don't recognize it.
Yes. Why are we so optimistic? Even in the face of all we are facing. There are persons, I'm sure, right now in certain parts of the world where there's no joy, or there's so little joy that it would be hard to determine that there is joy. But I'm sure even in a place like, for instance, Gaza, right, where the people are suffering. So what happens is there's this folks that get in such desperate situations. It might be, I don't know, would it be rude to be joyous in any way? I see kids dying in Gaza, but I also see some running around and kicking a soccer ball, and I see them finding some way to be joyous.
Exactly. I mean, no matter where they are, they're going to find a way to play, right?
Yeah. You're fading a little bit, so you have to get a little closer to the microphone. Thank you, Sam Nog. So if we think about this, Bruce kind of touched something, right? And why did people laugh for 17 seconds? Like it's almost like a massive record. It's more than 4 times longer than the best.
I mean, maybe they were just caught so off guard, right?
Have you been at comedy shows? Do you go to comedy shows?
I have only been to one comedy show in my life.
Did you laugh?
I did.
What type of humor was it?
Oh. What types of humor are there?
Well, I guess was the comedian talking about... well, let's talk about that. We're going to talk about that further. But, what was the comedian talking about?
Life stories, not like a super obscene comedian, more of just like a regular storyteller guy. Can
you remember any story?
I cannot, unfortunately. Okay. I do remember that it was funny, though.
Yeah. Well, have you ever seen the Robin Williams, the comedian?
I've seen a few of his movies and a few of his little bits.
So his comedy was improvisational, and therefore I find it really fascinating. His imagination and his quickness, his quick wit, was what astounded me. And he was more comfortable in character, out of his own character, in another character, than he was in his own mind, seemingly. And then what happened is, at one point he made some observations about the game of golf. And there is the funniest segment about that, because he says, about Scotland, and he's talking about Scotland, and then there's this game of golf, and they give you these sticks, and you lash at the ground, and you drag it and take the sticks, and you hit the little tiny ball. And where do they put the greens? And the little hole? Way the fuck down there. It's hilarious. I find that kind of humor funny. Now, this dude whose name was Carrot Top? He had a big smashing hammer thing. He would smash shit on stage, like, fruit.
Oh, and like yell very angrily while he does it?
Yeah.
He ended
up having some psychological problems because he just got sick of doing it, I'm sure. It was like, he had to do this every time. He became the guy
You have to be angry all the time and smash stuff.
I don't know. Did you ever have a kid in the neighborhood who was kind of demonic? And he was like inclined to stuff to animals and stuff that...
I don't think so, unless that was me and you.
No.
Yeah, unless it's a trick question. No, I think everyone in our neighborhood was pretty normal, but.
So you asked about what kind of comedy, what kind of comedies are there? Well, there are basically 4 jokes that repeat themselves in various versions. The first is someone trying to look clever and they take an exaggerated fall. So that can be funny, right? Some of the first silent movies were all about that. Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, those movies. And they're still funny, because they took great risks to do all this. But then the other comedy that is out there, the other jokes that comedians revolve around would be husbands and wives not being loving and ragging on each other. So, my wife, that story, or my husband. And then there's doctors' insensitivity to impending death. And I know that's funny sometimes because the expectation is the doctor's always trying to, take care of somebody. But the reality is they're like, oh my God, this Gomer, he doesn't have a chance. And until it's their turn, right? And because it happens to everybody. And then God making a mistake or speaking as a mortal and doing mortal things. That's funny too. So they suggest in this article that those are only 4 jokes.
Those are the only 4 you need.
Yeah. So if this dude was talking to you about his life experiences at this comedy club that you were hanging out in, which of the storylines did he most often go back to? Was it God making a mistake, doctor's insensitivity? I would imagine husbands or wives or relationships, right?
I would imagine.
Well, you can't remember.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Those are all pretty specific.
Did he walk out and fall down?
No.
Okay, so that takes one of them out.
But
I'm not looking for specifics, so generally,
yeah,
though.
so then generally, I guess, more of a commentary on relationships and life and relationships, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Okay, so for comedians, the funniest animal, what do you think it is?
Oh, that's a great question. What about the elephant?
No, a duck.
A duck?
Because you know why?
Why?
It's the sound of the word. What does duck sound like? It sounds like fuck, right?
Oh, gotcha.
And fuck's a funny word.
It is
Anything
a good
with
one.
a K on the end of it, they said, is a funny word. And you incorporate them into you got to tell your brother Sven all this stuff. Well, he can just listen.
Well, I'm sure he will.
So it said that American comedians are inclined to pick on skinny, fat, dumb, ugly, clumsy. I don't like this one. Stupid, weird. The worst one, deformed. Very bad idea, I wrote.
Yeah.
Nothing produced laughter more than a surprising disproportion, they said. So I think that's interesting. And here's an example. I went to the doctor's for shingles, and he sold me aluminum siding. So what's funny about that? Tell me.
Well, to me...
You had an expectation.
Yes, my expectation was that you were talking about medical shingles, but all of a sudden by switching it up to aluminum siding, it becomes clear that they were talking about roof shingles.
And you know what? Nobody uses aluminum siding anymore. They
Not
use
that I know of.
Plastic, right? And then Sam Nowak's father has to go into those burning buildings with the plastic burning, which is not good for Sam Nowak's father.
Dripping plastic is super great for inhaling, I've heard.
There's this comedic technique called stacking the whack or frosting the flake. So there was a couple of examples here. So Elmo Phillips is a comedian, right? And his joke was this. Think about stacking the whack or frosting the flake. I'd like to die in my sleep like my grandfather did, not screaming at the top of my lungs like the passenger in his car. See, you like this joke. I heard a lot of laughter this time. But what's funny about it?
Gosh, what's funny about it is
Two people died.
Which is, for whatever reason, way funnier than it was when it was just one person dying.
You want me to do it again? I'd like to die in my sleep like my grandfather did. Not screaming at the top of my lungs like the passenger in his car. Very funny.
Very funny. I mean...
There's irony there, isn't there?
Yes.
Is it irony?
I think.
No, maybe not.
I always get confused about this one. It's certainly...
Clever?
Funny, yeah.
It's clever. It's funny.
It starts out as a very serious topic, I'd like to die peacefully. And then by the end of the joke, you realize the grandfather fell asleep at the car and his passenger died screaming. Actually, saying it, explaining it, I don't really know why that's funny. 2 people died.
So, comedians and repetition. How many times do you think a comedian should repeat a joke that is funny? Like, that he gets a laugh on the first time and goes back to. A lot of comedians do this, right? So they'll have something that works and they'll bring it back into the flow. Oftentimes it's when they reach out to an audience member and they make fun of them. Oftentimes it's my bald head because it seems to have a shine, and that's just like, and they like to say shit about the bald head. And, if I try to be funny in the return, oh man, you're going
to get roasted.
You just have to sit there and take the shit because my head shines. Which could be funny, right? However, he goes back to this how many times before it's stale?
To me, it's stale the third time. If you go back a second time, I was never expecting you to go back, and it's very funny because I wasn't expecting it. The third time
he says, hey, this guy's hair's growing. Look at this. Something
okay,
like
you've
that.
already told us twice about this guy, and now we're expecting it to happen a fourth. Not the third time, we're not. The first time, we have no way to know it's coming. The second time, you're surprised that he went back to it.
Yeah.
And then the third.
And that's funny.
Yeah, exactly. The third time, you're not surprised that they said it because they've already done it twice. And then the fourth time, you're actually expecting it. So to me, I guess you could push it with 3.
They suggested almost exactly like you said. They said 3 times is good. And you can get 3 times 3 2-second laughs, maybe even, out of the one joke. And the 4th loses it. And the 5th and 6th, it diminishes. And the laugh can rebound for the comedian, on the comedian, I should say. But the 7th time,
it goes back. Something
is said, and bang, it works again with almost as much pop as the 3rd repetition.
That is so cool.
Isn't that funny?
I've experienced this before, and I wonder if you have, where something's happening that starts out, oh, that's funny. After a little while, it's like, okay, this isn't funny anymore. This is just annoying. And then after a while longer, it's like, oh my gosh, this is still happening. This is funny.
Right. It's almost as if like the shock of having known that Trump became president, the reality of it, and then it's like this bad joke that keeps repeating over and over and over and over. And it was never funny from the start. That one.
Right.
Well, so a little discussion about comedy. Some waves and some bubbles for those of you in Boise, Iowa, who don't have an opportunity to come to the beach that often. But we have relatives I have a nephew that's coming out this way this summer, and I am really jacked to visit with them. We're going to have some times. Oh, it's time for our commercials, which we have to do each time we meet, but these are always joyous, and I hope you enjoy them as well, and you're free to comment on them at the conclusion of each one. All right, coming soon. You'll love this. Tortoise races at the Katunkwit Recreation Center for toddlers. You've heard of goat yoga? Bring a toddler and race live 250-pound tortoises. And you could win a prize from Phantom Enterprises of a lifetime supply of diapers. Entry fee is $25 per toddler. All toddlers will be permitted to feed the tortoises. No nudity.
Wise.
Yeah, wise. Always children and adults, not so good to have nudity. On this topic, though, $25. But you know what? Everybody here can hang. In Katunkwit's got a few bucks. But do you think this is going to catch on?
I think it's interesting. I hope it'll catch on. Is there going to be betting allowed? Are we allowed to bet on the outcomes?
I always think the toddlers should be betting. Let's get them started as early as possible.
Exactly. Introduce them. Have a toddler bar on the side. They can get apple juice.
Yeah.
Make it a whole.
What about the tortoises, though?
Toddler horse
Can they hang
track.
with those Do they bite?
Maybe very slowly. I'm not sure.
Can you imagine being bitten by a sloth? You'd have to be really slow.
At that point, you deserve it. You should have just moved.
Okay, another public service announcement. A traffic counting cord. You know what that is?
No.
They count the number of cars. Will extend over Cotunkwood, Maine at St. Helena's Ecclesiastical Church on the corner of Main and Duck Streets. There's that word again, duck. If you don't want to be counted, you can go down Schlitz Street, cross on Stone Street, and then down Blue Green. So that's a public service announcement if you don't want to go over the counting cord. You know, it's okay to be counted or to not be counted in Cotunkwood.
I think it's interesting that we have the choice to be counted or not.
Well, I think it's important that people have the opportunity to go around things that might not feel right, and they're eliminating their privacy.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like to be. A lot of times, I think my daughter suggested that when we were in the city, there was in the course of a day, and we were walking all day. We had been filmed 11,000 times or something like that.
Oh,
Some
wow.
kind of weird factor.
We're always on film.
Well, there you have the public service announcement. We're stretching that one. Yellow cakes by LP are in season. Remember the yellow cakes from last year?
Of course.
Get your yellow cake and strawberries and cream while visiting Cotunkwood Market. LP stand will be right next to the Gal Scouts table and the choir solicitation table. On site every Saturday afternoon. So you can get your yellow cakes. She doesn't do the angel food cake with the strawberries like you're used to, or that biscuit that's really dry biscuit.
Oh yeah.
That's one you probably got from your mother or maybe Sam Nowak's father. But the yellow cake is moister and nicer. It's actually a very nice sponge. You ever watch the baking show from England?
I have
not
watched.
From England. Was it England?
British
baking.
Yeah.
And there's that guy Paul, and he always says, "I'm not getting the ginger. I'm not getting the ginger," which is his line. Hightown Farm is offering free samples. Get right over to Hightown Farm.
Let's do it.
You know what Hightown Farm sells? You can guess.
I can guess.
All right, so call Max Lessend. Max Lessend. Lessend. Yeah, it's something that's happened to him. He's a Max that's been lessened. For all your yard cleanup services this spring, get our $500 cleanup package. And I think that Sam Nowak and Sam Nowak's father will do it for less than that. It's $500 cleanup package, and we will include a free gutter cleanup and the sun shield protection for all of your windows. Max will install, for an additional fee, solar deflectors to bug out that pesky neighbor with reflected light.
Oh my goodness.
Haha, this is cool. Max Lessend will serve as your proxy at meetings. He will sell items on eBay that you haven't the time to sell. He will walk to church with your family or be the companion to your spouse that you can't be while working incessantly overseas. Max Lessend will work endlessly to satisfy your needs and will back off when relationships get to be messy. Call Max for less. Now, I think this is an interesting business. This is a do-it-all.
So I like this. First of all, I would love to hire Max Lessend.
To hang out with your girlfriend?
No, I don't have a girlfriend, but to take care of my daily chores and things like that. But sounds like he'll do whatever. He's a fill-in, right? He can go to my meetings. You know, if I
He could take your classes.
yeah, he
Take the
could
tests.
exactly. He can go to work for me.
I like this
However,
idea.
I do doubt Max's ability to step out when relationships get messy, because nobody else in my life agreed to that deal, so they might not be on board with that.
Good point.
But worth a try.
So the thing you're very informed about, I'm sure, is there a point relatively soon where an assistant that's robotic will become, an AI assistant? Is it soon?
Is it soon? I think the answer is yes.
My lifetime?
I mean, it depends on how deep you're going with this. Going to meetings for you, going to class and work for you, that I don't think is in the near future or ever, because I think it'll get to a point where it's like, all right, guys, you got to actually do something on your own. But what I do think is that we're already very close to like digital assistants. Like ChatGPT was kind of the first one.
We're not. They're not on my list of advertisers yet. We're gonna have to get them on.
Yeah, they were kind of the first one. Now a lot of big companies like Apple and Microsoft are implementing AI assistants like directly into their software.
Yeah, but you have to have that device with you to access
Right.
it.
But
This
now we're
isn't-
only one step away.
It's not like I'm. Hello, I think I'd like some. I'd like some brie and some crackers.
Right.
That's different.
It is different.
The complexity of electronics for me is way too high. I need it so simple that I can say, I want it now. Give me some brie with some cheese and some crackers.
So the one
And
thing,
then they come over and they give it to you.
the thing they haven't done that I think would be very interesting is to shove an AI into either Alexa or Google Home or one of those, so that I feel like the ability to talk to your house and go, hey, I want to have hamburgers tonight. I want to have hamburgers for dinner, but I don't have any hamburger meat. They say, all right, don't worry. I'll order it for you, and it'll be here by 4 o'clock. That, I think
that's doable now.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, where will we be 5, 10, 15 years from now even?
Maybe replacing some of that meat with vegetables.
Hopefully.
All right, so next product, duck. Was it a product or no? This is a thing. Oh my goodness, this is awful. Duck foie gras unlimited. Duck foie gras unlimited is opening at High Point Farm this weekend. Spring foie gras, which is duck liver pate. They overfeed ducks and their livers grow to be too big. Can be enjoyed with a glass of wine and Katunkwit Bakery's best bread, all while watching the sunset at High Point. You'll be hungry when you visit High Point Farm. All fatty livers are grown in a lab and not extracted from innocent ducks, as in France.
I'll try it now. I'm not sure how I feel about ducks with fatty liver syndrome, but
Yes.
if it's grown in a lab, who can argue?
I know you're probably still young enough to try something like that. But I think the grown in lab, much better option. So Tim's Technology Service for Dumb Shits Over 50. This is the name of the company. Let me say that again, because that's funny, right? Tim's Technology Service for Dumb Shits Over 50. There isn't any K words in there, though, but it's still funny. Tim comes to your house and busts your balls because he knows shit that you don't and never will know. He'll inflate his fees and crack on your whole family, while you while away in your own ignorance. While you while away in your own ignorance. Call Tim's Technology for a really ball-busting experience. And that's what it's like for me with Tim in the house. So did you listen to last week's story, perchance?
I have not yet. I've fallen behind.
Oh, you know why? It's not out yet. That's why.
Well, that's why I've fallen behind.
Well, last week we read a story that is it's called 123 Army, and it was about three kids in the backyard, four kids. One was somewhat demonic, who likes to shoot the others with a real live BB gun, and they playing this game with the intent that the winner of each time would become the shooter, and things go bad. The three characters are the narrator, who's experiencing these things, Derek, who's 9 years old, his brother Todd, who is 8, and the somewhat devious one. His name is it's Raymond, but they call him. No, it's not Raymond. His real name is Hal, but they call him Scav. Okay? So this story also should hang on its own. And here we go with the title is a Scav's Carnival. He was inclined to make carnivals. He was very interested in making money as well. Derek's just outside my screen door, tossing a ball in the air and catching it with his brand new Rawlings baseball glove. He's breaking it in, and it's a pain. I know because I had to break mine in when I won the Ken Harrelson McGregor mitt last winter at the Little League baseball banquet. He oiled it last night with mink oil, and then my father had some bear grease, so he put that on too, and Derek's been working on the leather since. Last thing he said to me last night was that he was placing the mitt between his bed and the box spring, but I think that just flattens it more. The only way to really break in a glove is to use it, and therefore he wants me to finish breakfast and come out and play catch. Todd's still sleeping, and I don't know what Scav is up to. He's probably torturing ants or something. My mom enters the kitchen. Derek, come in here right now and get some breakfast, she insists. I'm not hungry. I ate a Pop-Tart when I got up, Derek informs my mother. Well, you can't live on Pop-Tarts, young man. Come in and have a proper breakfast, she says as she opens the door and waves Derek into the house. The kitchen's orderly, yet it's antiquated with an old used stove that we bought in Riverside at a house sale. The fridge is one of those old fridges with a freezer that you have to de-thaw all the time because it ices up. The door is heavy. There's hardly any space in it. My dad says we aren't buying a new one till this one breaks. But it's like 50 years old, so it'll probably go to like 100. The telephone sits prominently next to the refrigerator with equal status to the other major appliances, the fridge and the stove. It has its own place, like a sacred ornament or a sculpture. It's made of metal. The receiver is extremely heavy, and the cord, too. It's short. When the phone rings in my house, the whole family darts for the phone in a mad dash. Even if we're having Thanksgiving dinner, it's as if the governor is calling over every time the phone rings. The kitchen table is well used, damaged from when my father clamps the meat grinder to the maple laminated table. I'm sitting right where he always grinds clams for his famous clam chowder, which is ironically never tastes the same twice. Derek sits next to me, his long legs bump the table as he fidgets. What the heck is in under here? He says as he rubs his left leg. My mother places a plate full of buckwheat pancakes on the table, with even enough of butter on the top of the cakes to turn them yellow. Derek removes the cap and dumps pancake syrup atop the cakes for way too long. Even I think it's excessive. Mom removes an ice-encrusted can of condensed orange juice from the freezer, opens the can and dumps it in a jug, swishing the hard mess of bitter orange bits in tepid water. I think they just used the skins. Todd walks in with his sleepy eyes still caked in goo, his glove beneath his arm, and a small blanket draped over one shoulder. "Hi. You have any breakfast?" Derek interjects. "Todd, don't ask that." "Of course, dear. Sit down," my mother says. Scav rarely, if ever, has been in my house. It's kind of weird because my mother's friends come over. It's not that my mother doesn't want him in the house. He just never comes in when she asks him. My dad has, however, said aloud with my mom and me in the room, "I don't trust that kid." And he often encourages me to find new friends. I've been in Scav's house exactly twice, so it's almost even, I guess. The weird part is that we hang out together every day. We play sports together, wait at the top of the street for Mr. Salvito's ice cream truck together for at least an hour each day, even if I don't have money, and we walk to Pete's Market together for grocery errands for our mothers and the neighbors too. Yet I feel that I really can't trust Scav. My parents must know more about Scav because, as far as I know, they like everybody else in the neighborhood. We all sit together and Todd spills syrup on his blanket and has a fit about it. My mom throws the beat-up blanket in the washing machine and calls his mother. We head outside to the front yard for a game of three-way catch. But first I showed Derek and Todd the branches where my dad and I grafted a real dark cherry tree branches from our neighbor's tree to our choke cherry tree. Shiny new leaves from the grafted branches differ in size and color to the choke cherry leaves. "That's very interesting. Do you think that we could do that with our crabapple tree in my yard?" asked Derek as he rubs the long, stiff fingers of his new glove. Todd pees on the cedar trees extending along the property line and doesn't care about grafting cherry trees. But he'll be the first one to eat the cherries if he gets a chance. We throw for a while and then designate two bases and play pickle, where the guy on base tries to get to the other base without getting out. I throw a ground ball to the fielder, where the base runner Todd is on base, and Derek has to field it cleanly and throw it back to me. If Derek bobbles it or makes a bad throw, Todd rushes to the base. After 3 outs for the base runner, the person that made the most errors becomes the runner. The winner makes the least errors and has the most runs. It ends when Todd hits me in the temple with his throwing hand as he's following through, and besides, Scav is walking up the street as I'm rubbing my temple furiously. Scav's wearing a long white, yellow, and blue vest with pockets, a long visor that his mother must have to keep out the sun. He's got white clam boots on, the ones we use to get the foul balls that go into the marsh when we're playing in the field at the end of the street that we call the lot. He has white makeup on his face, extending down his neck, and he's painting blue stars around his eyes. He looks like a clown. Scav is holding a stack of hand-printed flyers. We all drop our gloves and run over to see what he's doing. "What the hell, man?" I ask as Scav nails a flyer into our ornamental tree that's closest to the street. "Town owns that tree. I could do it," Scav insists. "You look like a clown," Todd observes. "I don't care about the tree. What's up with the face paint and boots and the smock?" I ask. Derek reaches for a flyer, and Scav hands him the cardboard sign. "You hosting a carnival at your house?" Derek says, and asks as Scav nods and smiles at the same time, revealing even more tooth decay among his front teeth. Scav moves on to the telephone pole in front of Kalu's house and nails the cardboard with roofing nails. "Lots of kids coming. I have 50 signs. You guys want to help?" Scav asks. I don't know. "I guess so," I answer. "I thought we were going to play today in the lot when the tide goes out later this morning," Derek says while rubbing some powdery soil on his greasy glove. I can't play ball today. I'm just setting the ball in the morning. Carnival starts at 1 today, Scav says as he produces 3 small rock hammers that he borrowed from his brother, who's making gemstones from regular rocks. Let's help him. It might be fun, Todd says. It says here it costs 50 cents to get into the carnival? We get free admission if we help you, right? Derek insists. Free admission. How about half price and you help me set up the tables? Scav negotiates. Free admission and we help you set up, Derek says. Agreed. But if no one shows up but you guys, then you pay me back, Scav says. No way I'm paying, I say, knowing I don't have much more than $1 in nickels saved up. We walked the neighborhood, and all the way up to Pete's Market, where we run out of posters. Only Mr. Devron came up and gave us shit about nailing posters into live trees. He's the kind of guy that picks up his leaves in the fall by hand and never uses a rake because he doesn't want to hurt the worms beneath the wet leaves. Scav argues with him for a while until the old man leaves. I noticed on the way back, only that one sign was removed from the tree in front of Devron's, and the spot where the nail was located is painted white. Scav's dad had moved all the tables outside before he left for work at dawn, so setting up tables is easy, but Todd pinches his finger in the hinge and wants to go home. Scav says that he has to stay if he wants free admission. The kid still has bandages on his face where you shot him last week. Can you cut him a break? I mean, geez, I ask. The spot on Todd's hand is turning blue, so I pull some ice from the cooler marked Cokes, 50 cents. The whole cooler is filled with ice-cold green bottles of Coca-Cola. I wanted to steal one, but I don't know. And I just get a plastic bag and console Todd with the ice. We all need a break from work, so we sit on the stone wall and look for ground wasps. Scav pays good money for ground wasps, and he has hundreds of mayonnaise jars and corresponding screw caps to quickly cover their holes after they go down into their burrows. That's not the dangerous part. Scav entices us to capture the wasps by giving us a nickel for each one. Scav is deathly afraid of wasps, so he pays out. The dangerous part is when the wasp reappears and the capturer has to quickly lift the jar and screw the cap on tight before the wasp knows he's a prisoner and stings you. I made $1 one day catching wasps, but Scav hasn't paid me yet. I almost forgot about that. It's noon before we finish with all the setup for the carnival. It's mostly set up in the driveway and the front lawn, with games of chance and prizes of stale chocolate in plastic bags, G.I. Joe trinket medals, and more stickers. Each game costs $0.25. Some are 10 cents, but the cheaper games are kind of stupid and for young kids like a tricycle race for 6-year-olds. One game costs $1, and it's really mysterious about what the prize is. But I think it might be some of Scav's leftover fireworks from last summer. The game is cool because it involves his BB gun and a paper target hanging from a bird feeder. It's time for lunch. I can't stay any longer, I announce. Us too, Derek insists. Scav looks at us kind of nervous-like. His shoulders are slumped, and his head seems to move with a jerky motion as he scans the driveway and the yard while placing small stones on anything that could fly away before the game time. Scav's older brother pokes his head out of the front screen door. He's wearing a leather apron and a leather hat. He must be inside making jewelry all summer. What time is this shit happening? When do I have to help you? Scav's brother asks. 1 is good. Or a little earlier, Scav says as he pops a whole bag of chocolate into his mouth nervously. We're leaving, I say as we back into the street and look back at our work. It almost looks like a carnival. There might be at a church or in a parking lot, Derek says. I'll see you just before 1, I say. Me too, Todd says as my mother meets us at the end of the driveway with Toddy's laundered blanket. Todd reaches out for the blanket and says, "Thank you." I raise my hand, and the other 2 boys raise their hands at the same time with a clenched fist, saying simultaneously, "It's all good!" Mom and I walk to the back door. "What's that all about?" Mom asks. "It's all good," I say. "Yes, that. What's all good?" she asks. "It," I answer. "Yeah, what's it?" she asks. "Some things are just for us, Mom," I say. "All right. But you better do the right thing, Raymond. Not just some of the time. All the time," she says. "Do right?" "I know." "Can I have $1?" I ask, quickly. $1? For what?" she asks. "Scav's having a carnival this afternoon, and I only have $1. Nickels." "A carnival? What kind of carnival?" Mom asks. "One with games. I help set it up, and I get it in free because I help Derek and Todd, too," I explain. "So, the children will pay to be at this carnival that Hal is running?" she asks. "But I don't have to pay to get in. But the games cost money, and the soda, too." "Who gets the money?" she asks. "Scav, I suppose. He has all the prizes and everything." "I don't know about this kind of thing. It sounds kind of sketchy to me. He's so manipulative," she says. "Well, I don't know what that is, but Dad always talking about having his own business, something about poultry or pigeon farming. Scav's doing the same thing, really. Don't worry, Mom. I can take care of him." "I know you can. I'll give you $1. But you'll have to earn it back with extra chores around the house. I hope that you win something, Raymond," she says as she reaches out and touches the back of my hand and pulls away. "Your hands are filthy. And you've been eating." "Only the backs of my hands, Mom. I wash the palms and the fingers." She smiles and reaches into her bra and pulls a crinkled and warm $1 bill from her bra strap. "Don't use all of it in the first 10 minutes. "I won't, Mom," as I grab the dollar, check to the clock above the wall on the wall, and say, "I gotta go. Everyone's meeting at Kalou's." "It all seems like gambling to me. Be careful," she says, as I bounce out the screen door and run to the street to meet my friends. "What's up with the bag?" I ask Derek as he's holding a small bag in his right hand. "It's my mom's change. She said to share it with Todd and you too," Derek says. "I have $1. I'll share with you 2 guys, and we'll clean out all of Scav's prizes," I say. Todd smiles and says, "I want to win the wooden Pinocchio thing with the strings." "That's broken, and the strings are all twisted," Derek explains, as he and I start down the street to Scav's house. "I know, but I can fix it," Todd yells, skipping, almost stumbling to catch up with us. When we arrive at the carnival, a few big kids from over near Pete's Market neighborhood are already playing games. Scav's dressed like a clown, and his brother is dressed like a wizard with a huge pointy hat. Todd hesitates when he sees the wizard. I don't know. It's only big kids," Todd says. Derek puts his arm in the middle of Todd's back and guides him into the carnival. Scav's taking admission money from some guys from 2 streets over, and a girl from Gentry Drive, who's the only girl. Scav lets her in free. "Did you see that?" I asked Derek. Yeah, she gets in free, Derek responds as we move up the line to where Scav sits with his black lockable money box. 50 cents, he says. No. We worked. We get in free, Todd says from behind us boldly. Just pay and I'll reimburse you. I can't let on you didn't pay. What will all the other customers think? Scav says. What will we think? That's what you should worry about, Derek chimes in. Yeah. We're your only friends. I have friends, Scav, the clown says as he stands and waves his arm at a cluster of kids standing in the driveway looking at games and prizes, while Scav takes admission from his friends. Let's just walk away, I say as I pull Derek's shirt from behind. Todd drops a bunch of change on Scav's table, and dimes and nickels and pennies play out all over the surface. 15 dimes or 30 nickels, Scav says quickly as Todd counts. Give him the pennies, I say. I don't have time for pennies. Customers are waiting, Scav announces as Todd separates the pennies and counts slowly. Other kids file around us and toss quarters at Scav as the counting continues. Pennies, 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 Derek chants, and I start into pennies, pennies, pennies. Scav helps count, and we're into the carnival grounds, and it takes so long that we're the last ones to get in. I keep all the silver coins, Todd says with a smile. I kept all the silver coins, Todd says with a smile. I watch Todd lose his silver coins and hold on to my dollar. Everyone is losing, and Todd's may be the worst loser because he likes all the prizes and he keeps trying. He's trying to win a silver necklace for his mother, but Scav's rigged the game so the balls are just slightly smaller than the cans you have to throw them into. Jim Longboard, the pitcher from the Red Sox, couldn't pitch them into those cans. We grab Todd and move on to the Pinocchio marionette he wants at the pitching station. Scav set up a painted bullseye on a board 60 feet away on the far end of the yard. There's a crate full of soggy, water-laden baseballs, and the game is to hit the bullseye and get the ball through the hole in the target. Todd puts down 5 nickels and hits the target all 3 times, but misses the bullseye and the hole in the target. He puts down 5 more nickels, and his brother steps in. I got this, Todd, Derek announces. Derek winds up and stings the plywood board with a fastball on the first try, hitting the bullseye, but the ball glances off the edge of the hole. He reaches back with a second try and hits the opposite edge of the hole this time. Todd smiles at the crowd of boys and one girl watching Derek throw. Taking his time and concentrating, Derek throws a fastball straight through the small hole in the target, and the ball flies into the marsh near the ball field. Wow, the girl says admiringly, and then tosses a quarter at Scav, who's handing the broken Pinocchio marionette to Derek, and then takes it back. Scav announces, next up, Katie Hall from Gentry Drive. Katie sorts through the baseballs and finds one larger softball and selects it. Rubbing the ball with her hands, seemingly warming it up, and removing the dirt while she does, she holds the ball in front of her and reaches back as she steps forward and underhand pitches the ball at the target, hitting the bullseye right in the middle, and if it were a baseball, it would have gone through. She just smiles at Derek, gives Todd a nod of her head, and walks out the front yard and up the street. Wow, she's cool, I say. I don't even know her, Derek says. She just moved into one of those new houses in that flat house on Gentry Drive, Scav says. That girl can play, Todd says. Scav announces every 10 minutes that at 3 o'clock the big prize contest would begin. I kind of know what the game will be because I helped set it up. Todd has 6 chairs set up way out in the marsh with glass jars on them. One of the jars in the middle has a metal piece in it suspended in an oily substance. The contest costs $1. Scav holds up the Daisy BB gun and announces in his carnival voice, hear ye, one and all, for $1 the jars will fall. If you break the one in the middle with the oil, fireworks will fly up this marsh. It's $1, only $1. Everyone rushes to get in line, and me too. I'm in 4th position, behind Pete's market owner kid, his name is Mark, who has a fistful of dollars and didn't bring any change like the rest of the kids. I got this, Mark announces, and rattles off 3 shots without hitting anything. Hey, this isn't fair. What's in that jar anyway? He asks as he gets at the end of the line. Yeah, what's in the jar? Derek asks as he attempts to untangle Todd's marionette off to the side. A special metal mixture the wizard has made, Scav says while sweeping his arm across his clone smock and waving at his brother. It's sodium metal. When it hits the water, it explodes, Scav's brother announces. Whoa, Derek says. I read about that stuff. It's highly volatile and unstable, like nitroglycerin unstable. He's not kidding. This stuff is badass. Derek finishes and Todd giggles. The next 2 kids don't even know how to hold the gun, and Scav has to show them everything, and they miss miserably, and then it's my turn. I release the lever and cock the gun, press it into my shoulder, adjust the guides, and smack one of the 3 glass jars with the first shot. 2 more shots left, and I smash the other outside jar. The crowd groans in unison. I got this, I assure them. Clack! The spring-loaded BB gun, BB, is released, and it hits the glass jar in the center at the base. But it doesn't shatter, and it falls in the marsh unbroken. I breathe out, exasperated. The wizard rushes forward, reaching to the sky. Wait, now! And just as he says now, the marsh explodes in a giant mass of water and muck and weed, with hundreds of mini explosions occurring throughout the marsh, and even in the yard near all of us standing in amazement, totally stunned. Scav's just smiling. His hands are in his pockets holding all the $1 bills and fumbling with his change. What's the prize? I ask. That was the prize, Scav says. No prize? I say. I can give you a Coke, he says, as the crowd walks closer to the marsh to see the damage. 3 Cokes, I respond. What are you going to do with 3 Cokes, he asks. Just give them to me. The 3 of us walk up to Carlu's stone wall and fix Todd's toy Pinocchio, bending twisted wires and straightening wooden arms and legs, while slugging down a well-deserved Coca-Cola from Scav's Carnival. And we have an end.
I love that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You seem to be joyful. I was worrying that you were very attentive, like midway through. I know you were attentive throughout.
Yes.
You were there with me all the way. But you got right into it at a certain point, and I was wondering what that point was.
I wish I could remember. There was something unexpected caught my attention.
Oh, the young lady? Because she was a great softball player.
It may have been even before. I don't remember.
Okay.
But I'll have to collect my thoughts.
Okay, good. And next time we visit, you can discuss it.
Is there going to be a continuance of this, or is this a
Oh, there'll be at
two and
least one
done?
more.
Awesome.
One more story. But you've got to catch 123 Army. That's quite a story.
I sure do.
It is time because we have run over a little bit today, but thanks for listening. We're glad that you joined us here again at Katunkwit, the great town of Katunkwit. Here at the Katunkwit Elementary School, where we broadcast from each week. Episode 35, Scav's Carnival. Thanks for joining us. Pick up all this stuff before we leave, because we got to get everything out of here.